In 1984, Donna Macho stayed with her family in New Jersey. She was only 19 years old, but worked two glamorous jobs: a legal secretary during the week and a part-time model aiming to be a professional one day. Donna was a beautiful blonde, the kind everyone wanted to be friends with, but her beauty did not stand in the way of her kindness. She lived in East Windsor, Cherrybrook Lane with her mother, Betty, stepfather Ronald, and little sister Julie. Julie not only resembled her sister, but she aimed to be just like her one day. The eldest sister, Tony, had recently moved out, so the Machos were not ready to let go of Donna just yet. Her parents had given Donna the privacy to live in the basement, and she could come and go as she pleased as she had a separate entrance. But this very fact would prove to be a vital part of the tragedy that ensued. It was February 26, 1984, a typical Saturday night at home. Donna did not have any plans, but she did have to run an errand for work the next morning. 14-year-old Julie came home and saw her sister's car parked in the driveway, meaning she was home. She was excited as she wanted to spend time with her big sister. Donna let her stay in the basement, watching horror movies till the early morning hours. When it was 2:45 a.m., Julie was done for the night and went up to her room to go to sleep, leaving her big sister watching TV alone. Betty and her husband were asleep in their bedroom, and Julie went to sleep shortly thereafter. There was nothing to suggest a struggle or commotion. The next morning, Donna was missing from the breakfast table. Her family assumed she had gone to work for the office job that was pending. They thought nothing of it, as Donna often came and went as she pleased. The entire day was uneventful and dinner time rolled around. That is when Betty got seriously worried. It was not like Donna to be gone so long without telling her family. She never even stayed the night anywhere. She always had dinner with her family unless she had plans. Betty thought perhaps Donna had come home and she missed it somehow. But as she descended the stairs to her daughter's basement room, she was surprised to see it was a mess. Donna was not there, but everything had been hurriedly tossed around. There were clear signs that there had been a struggle. Donna was a very organized, neat girl, so this was out of character. And that is when her eyes settled on a shocking sight in the corner of the room. It was a pile of bloody clothes. Betty immediately called the police, upset that she had not seen this detail sooner. After some time of searching, investigators recovered Donna's car a mile away from home. The black four-door '79 Chrysler was parked on the side of Millstone Road, near the Cranberry border. All the doors were open, but even more shocking were the bloodstains all over the car. From the upholstery to the ceiling, there was blood everywhere. Officers found her wallet, money, credit cards, and driver's license in the car. The blood from her room and blood from her car were sent for lab testing. A thorough analysis of her room revealed some clues. There was male DNA on some of Donna's clothes. It was obvious that a man had broken into her room and kidnapped her. There was the possibility of assault and the unthinkable. He might have taken Donna's life. The blood from the car and room belonged to Donna. Unfortunately, DNA technology was still in its initial stages, so there was not much to identify the perpetrator. There were no leads to find out where Donna was exactly. The case remained unsolved for months. Where was Donna? The Machos were struck with adversity again 6 months after Donna disappeared, when Ronald, their stepfather, passed away. Julie and her mother could not bear such a loss. Tony got married in 1986 and attempted to move on with her life. A year later, in 1987, Betty and Julie moved to Carrollton, Texas. They tried to start over, but it was marred with bad luck. They had kept everything in a storage unit until they settled down, but it was a bad idea. The storage unit was burglarized, leading to 16 boxes of Donna's things being stolen. Mementos, photographs, precious memories were lost. This is a very interesting point, because normally a burglar would not take photographs or files. Betty became grief-stricken after losing her husband and not knowing where her Donna was. In 1990, she passed away as well. Julie was 20 years old when her mother passed. As she took her last few breaths, Betty made Julie promise to never give up on Donna's case, to find her no matter what. A decade later, the sisters finally had an answer. Not necessarily one they liked. On April 2, 1995, 11 years after Donna vanished without a trace, an unexpected discovery was made. A Boy Scouts troop commander, while leading an expedition, stumbled upon a partially dressed skeleton concealed in thick underbrush. The remains were wrapped in a carpet in a wooded area near a cranberry farm. It lay eerily close to the spot where Donna's car had been abandoned years ago. Authorities swiftly responded, and using dental records, they confirmed the remains were indeed those of Donna Macho. The medical examiner initially concluded that she had passed due to a gunshot wound to the head, but back at the lab, a more thorough examination revealed that it was blunt force trauma. Donna Macho's case went from a missing persons case to a slaying. Unfortunately, that was the only progress, a separate classification. The authorities at the time had no idea who did this to Donna. Julie slowly rebuilt her life. She found love, got married, and raised 3 children, while checking up regularly on New Jersey police regarding her sister's case. A few years later, in 2013, Tony, now married as Tony Bartz, passed away as well. She was buried in Little Elm, Texas, where she spent her married life. Tony never did know who took her sister's life so brutally. But a decade later, there was new hope. In 2022, nearly 40 years after the tragic events, the authorities decided to reopen the investigation into Donna Macho's case. Their first step was to send all the original evidence to the Central Regional Laboratory of the State Police of New Jersey. This included DNA samples and fingerprints collected from the scene. In a remarkable breakthrough, the authorities announced in April 2023 that they had identified Nathaniel Harvey as the person responsible for taking the life of Donna Macho. Harvey, a man with a long history of criminal activity, had already passed away in prison. The crucial evidence came from the male DNA found in Donna's apartment during the initial investigation in 1984. This trace, which had no innocent reason to be there, ultimately led to the long-awaited resolution of the case. It was revealed that Harvey, who worked on the cranberry farm, who had been a person of interest initially, was the perpetrator all along. Officers at the time were unable to build a case against him as there was no DNA technology involved at the time. Harvey was arrested for a series of abuses many times over the years, but one thing that put him behind bars was a horrendous crime he committed in June of 1985. A 37-year-old widow named Irene Schnapps was found slain in the bedroom of her Plainsboro apartment. Her body was discovered by a co-worker who, concerned after several days without contact, decided to check on her. Investigators concluded that Irene had been fatally struck on the head with a metal object. They found a bloody fingerprint on her pillow and a footprint on the floor, evidence that painted a grim picture of the crime. The lack of forced entry led the police to believe that Irene's attacker was someone she knew. This line of thinking directed their suspicion toward Peter, a neighbor known to have feelings for Irene. However, despite their initial focus on him, No substantial evidence was found linking Peter to the crime. He was eventually cleared as a suspect. Attention then shifted to Nathaniel Harvey, a notorious criminal known for breaking into homes and attacking women. During questioning, detectives noted that Harvey's shoe size matched the footprint found at the crime scene. Additionally, they discovered a Seiko watch belonging to Irene in Harvey's car. After 3 days of intense interrogation, Harvey confessed to taking her life. However, a critical error occurred. The confession was not recorded. Harvey later recanted his confession, claiming he was not involved in Irene's demise. Despite this, the evidence against Harvey was compelling enough to convict him. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for Irene's slaying. Harvey remained in prison from his arrest in 1985 until he passed away in 2020 in Southwood State Prison, despite multiple appeals. Julie Macho is now Julie Berger. She was 54 years old and a grandmother. She had also been an elected official who served on the council in the town of New Fairview, Texas. She was not expecting to find out the truth about her sister when she got that phone call from New Jersey police. Julie had kept in touch with people in East Windsor through the Hightstown High memorial page on Facebook to help push her sister's investigation. She sometimes gets angry at herself for not staying up with her sister. Perhaps if she had stayed, would anything have changed? But it is possible that Julie, being a child herself, would have lost her life anyway. For years, her family had gone to trackers, private investigators, and psychics just to know what happened to their lovely Donna. Having a name finally brought some amount of closure to her. Julie will always fondly remember the day when she and her husband went to pick up the remains of Donna, since the investigation was finally over. A small ladybug flew onto her arm, and in a moment of solitude, she truly believed it was Donna reaching out to her, as if she is grateful and finally at peace. On the evening of March 8, 1982, Susanna Brown attended a Tupperware party near their home in Abilene, Texas. Her daughter Francesca stayed at their neighbor Katie Spivey's house. Francesca asked Kathy if she could have a sleepover. Kathy, being a mother, said it was a school night and they could do something over the weekend. After picking up Francesca around 8:30 p.m., Susanna returned with her to their home. The next morning, Billy Brown came home from work. It was nearly 3:20 a.m., and in the dark, he had no idea of what horrors awaited him. As he turned on the light switch, the first thing he saw was blood, and then he saw his wife Susanna lying lifeless, half hidden under the bed. He walked past the living room phone and went to the kitchen to call 911. The officers discovered his 8-year-old stepdaughter, Francesca Antionette Martinez's body in the house. It was a grim discovery, yet law enforcement officials noticed something odd. Susanna was discovered lying face up in her bedroom with a lamp cord, still attached to the lamp, wrapped around her neck. Her daughter was also a victim of ligature strangulation, found in her bedroom with a phone cord cut in 2 places around her neck. The ligatures used to slain Susanna and Francesca were both items already present in the house, indicating a crime of opportunity rather than premeditated slaying. Strangulation, being a highly expressive and personal means of ending the life of a person, suggests that the suspect likely knew the victims. The medical examiner later announced there was male DNA fluid present in Susanna's mouth. However, it appeared to have been rinsed off, so it could be consensual, and there was no way to relate it to the crime in question. There were 3 large lacerations on Susanna's head, meaning whoever strangled her also struck her thrice with the lamp on the left side of her head. Her white V-neck t-shirt was torn a little, as was her bra. Her blue shorts were pulled down and around her ankles, but there was no presence of assault. It was noted that little Francesca had been hiding under the bed. The way her body was found, it appeared the attacker found and dragged her out. Interestingly, Billy told police at the time that the back door was slightly open and a window was open 5 to 6 inches. This looked staged, as all the screen doors were intact, in fact, shut. Officers could find no signs of breaking and entering, not even a scratch on the door, and there was nothing missing from the house. For a man struck with such misfortune, Billy seemed unfazed. He was calm, not too upset, and even made inappropriate dad jokes. That is when he turned from the affected loved one to their number one suspect. Investigators first wanted to know more about Susanna Flores Brown. For parents Nick Flores and Frances Soda, Susanna was a Texas girl through and through. Born on October 20th, 1951, in Taylor County, Texas. She had 2 sisters, a half-sister, and a half-brother. Susanna was loved and adored by all. When she was only 16 years old, she fell in love, but the man she chose was 10 years older than her, 26-year-old Freddie Martinez. In 1967, they got married. They were blissfully married for a long time. Freddie was in the Marine Corps, a lance corporal in the U.S. Army. He served in the Vietnam War up until 1973, when the war was over. For Freddie, 1973 would turn out to be an eventful year. In January, as the Paris Peace Accords were signed and troops were withdrawn, Freddie lost his father. But by the end of the year, some light came into his life. On December 11, 1973, he was blessed in the form of little Francesca Antionette Martinez, his baby girl. Francesca was affectionately known as Cha-Cha because of her fun spirit. She studied at Bonham Elementary School in Abilene. The mother and daughter were happy and loved, but unfortunately, as often happens with teen marriages, their marriage did not work out. The couple separated, with Susanna keeping Francesca. Susanna was very busy with her daughter, who loved to dance and be involved in just about everything. For a while, it was just the two of them, until 1979, when Billy Brown entered their lives. One night at a nightclub, she met a handsome man who took her heart. Billy worked at Newcorp and appeared to be a loving family man. Susanna's sisters noticed the relationship turning sour very quickly. He was a flirt and a womanizer. Linda Flores and Rita Flores Lafferty believed he was cheating on her repeatedly. Susanna tried to attribute it to them being racist and even explained how he was different and kind, but the sisters still did not like him. Once they were all out with their dates at a nightclub when Linda came across the couple arguing. She saw Billy push Susanna hard, knocking her down. The couple had been in a relationship for around 3 years. Susanna's family described Billy as controlling and abusive. Susanna was in significant danger from Billy, as detailed by her siblings. Richard Flores, Susanna's half-brother, arrived at the crime scene after hearing about the double slaying. He noticed that Billy did not show any remorse at all and was laughing and joking about a bottle of whiskey Richard had left there about a week before. For Richard, the way Billy distanced himself from any emotions at all was a big red flag. Roanne Flores Beats, Susanna's half-sister, recalled Susanna expressing reluctance about being intimate with Billy. Susanna mentioned that Billy could become ugly or moody and make short and snotty remarks throughout the day if she did not perform in bed to his liking. The news of Susanna wanting to leave the relationship coupled with Billy's alleged anger over intimacy issues, helped investigators identify a possible motive. Billy told the police that he had been trying to call Susanna for quite a while before he was finally able to get a hold of her. Investigators could paint a picture of what might have occurred. When Susanna did not answer the phone, his feelings of insecurity, jealousy, and control took over, sparking an argument that escalated into something more serious. Sarah Sato, a close cousin of Susanna, told investigators that in the summer of 1981, she escorted Susanna to the hospital. Susanna allegedly claimed that she and Billy Brown got into a fight that led to her suffering a miscarriage. The officers strongly believed there was physical abuse in the relationship. Things got heated often, and investigators discovered Susanna had once called the police in November of 1981, afraid of Billy. They had a domestic issue, and allegedly Billy had gone to see another woman. He laughed it off with the police, saying Susanna had poured dirt in his car's gas tank as revenge. Then, realizing it was too much and perhaps she crossed a line, she called the police, fearing Billy's reaction. Susanna confided in her family that she did not want to marry Billy or live in Texas due to the common-law marriage laws. While Susanna and Billy were not married by Texas laws, there was intent to marry and they were living together for some time, so she was considered his common-law wife. But Susanna's unwillingness was evident. According to court documents, she refused to take his last name until shortly before her end, only doing so under his pressure. A few weeks before her untimely end, Susanna asked her mother for money to change the locks. About a week before the tragedy, she asked her siblings if they could get her a gun. Richard Flores further explained that he knew something nobody else did. Susanna was trying to leave Billy, and he was very upset about it, threatening her. She went to Richard, told him everything, and asked him to help her buy a gun. It was almost as if Susanna knew something, as if she knew what was to come. As investigators zeroed in on Billy, interrogating him, he produced an alibi. He claimed he left for his job at the Newcorp Manufacturing Company at around 4:30 p.m. on March 8th. He clocked in at 5 p.m. and clocked out at 3 a.m. the following morning. Investigators met with his alibi, Josie Landeros, a Newcorp employee. It was rumored that Billy Brown was cheating on Susanna with Josie. Josie was cooperative and admitted it would be easy for Billy to slip out of work as the nature of his job allowed him to leave undetected. Other employees, including co-workers named James Coffey and Larry Skiles, confirmed it was highly possible, which further reduced Billy's alibi. Back in 1982, Billy could not be convicted due to lack of evidence. Little did the officers know, they in fact did possess evidence. It just needed DNA analysis. The case ended up in the unsolved pile until years later in 2012 when Abilene police asked Billy to come in for an interview. He did not show up or agree to give a DNA sample. 10 years later, on the 17th of January 2023, the oral swab from Susanna's mouth was processed, and there was no question it was Billy. The investigators wanted to speak to Billy. They confronted him outside his house, but he took it very lightly. Billy sat down for a 2-hour interview with the police, where he denied all allegations and said he loved his wife. He denied any domestic violence. He also denied any miscarriage, saying Susanna had an abortion in 1981 by her own will. When he denied giving a DNA sample, he was served a warrant, and the DNA sample was taken by force. Billy was reportedly heard saying, "I have signed my own ending." He also claimed that since breaks at work were only 30 minutes long, he could not have made the drive back and forth to their Abilene home to commit the crime, since it took 18 minutes to drive one way. He also passionately denied any relations with Susanna, saying he did not enjoy this particular act in bed. He was not aware that the officers had carried out a DNA analysis. It was Billy's bodily fluid in Susanna's mouth. Despite this, he profusely denied having done the deed with Susanna. He also said that it was possible Susanna was cheating on him with her ex at the time, trying to turn the police elsewhere. He said he got fried chicken for dinner, ate with his family, and left for work. When officers asked him why he did not call the police from the living room phone, he did not miss a beat and retorted with, "Did Francesca not have a phone cord around her neck?" There was no question about it. The perpetrator was Billy. Officers then had a clear picture. Billy had calculated the entire thing, slipped out of work, and taken Susanna's life. He then slayed Francesca, leaving no witness behind. On October 27, 2023, 2 days after speaking with Susanna's sisters, police arrested Billy Brown on the charges of ending someone's life. But he was released on a $200,000 bond the very next day. Billy said he suspected Susanna was cheating on him with her ex, and that was the only thing he was concerned about knowing all these years later. When reporters tried to get him to say something, Billy simply laughed it off. Susanna's sister, Linda, tearfully said the following, "I did not have my hopes up because it has been so long, and I just thought, there is no way they can do this. It has been 41 years. To hear this news, it is just unbelievable. It is like a dream." A trial date has yet to be set for the case. 41 years later, Susanna and Francesca just might get justice after all.